Yellowstone geothermal crews follow 6 rules. They are never printed on a sign, but every worker memorizes them on day 1. Rule 1. Never look directly into the cobalt center of Grand Prismatic Spring. Sample blind. Trust the equipment. Brian, a 10-year veteran, learned from a scarred senior that even polarized goggles aren't enough. The water dissolves bone in 90 seconds, but the unspoken reason is older. The cobalt heart holds something that does not want to be seen. Rule 2. Never sample after dusk. Rule 3. Respect the old faithful window. Stay off the boardwalk before the predicted eruption. Rule 4. If a spring steams when it shouldn't, don't approach. Rule 5. At Norris, unmapped vents can swallow a boot. Rule 6. If you see a colleague's reflection in a pool and no one is there, leave and do not return that day. In July 2019, a technician named Kevin broke the first rule. He looked into Grand Prismatic. Kevin resigned that afternoon. He moved to Vermont. He has not bathed in standing water since. He refused to explain. But before he left, he told Brian what he saw. That account will now be told. Brian has worked Yellowstone geothermal maintenance for a decade. He knows the hiss of a vent about to blow. Every morning, he checks temperatures, collects samples, and watches the crust for new fractures. His first day, an older tech handed him a laminated card and recited the rules in a low, flat voice.
6 rules. They felt like a death sentence.
Dead birds sometimes appear near the pools, feathers singed. The crust hides pockets of boiling water just beneath. Off-schedule steam means shifting pressure. At Norris, the ground is a thin mask over scalding void. Brian's boot has punched through mineral crust twice. He pulled back before the heat reached his skin. Night patrols are worse. The flashlight beam turns the steam into a moving wall, every shadow a figure. In the equipment room, yellow suits hang like empty shells. Each pocket holds a worn rule card. The springs take what they want. The rules just give you a chance. Sundown changes the pools. The steam glows, and the water turns the color of a fresh bruise. Rule 3. Never be on the boardwalk during the Old Faithful window. The schedule shifts, but the eruption always comes. Rule 4. If a spring steams when equipment says it shouldn't, do not approach. Some heat has no mechanical cause. Rule 5. At Norris, the maps are suggestions. Unmapped vents breathe inches below the mineral crust. Brian's boot punched through a crust last April. The steam scalded his ankle through the suit. He pulled back a heartbeat before it melted through. Rule 6 was the only one the old-timers never joked about. Reflections where no one stood. Last autumn, near Excelsior, Brian leaned over a shallow pool. The water was mirror still. In it, a figure stood behind his own reflection.
That wasn't me.
He spun around. The boardwalk stretched empty. No footsteps, no breath. When he turned back, the pool was just simmering water. He never mentioned it to the crew, but he started avoiding still pools after that. July 2019, Brian and Kevin pull into the Grand Prismatic Access Road at 6:14 a.m. The sky is pale violet.
Let's grab the samples now, beat the heat and the tour buses.
That's against Rule 2, Kevin. Dawn is too close to dusk.
Relax. Morning isn't dusk. The old-timers just don't like cold fingers.
He never takes the rules seriously. It's going to get him hurt one day.
Kevin pulls on his polarized goggles, the lenses darkening the world to a protective tint. He grabs the steel sampling pole. He steps off the truck and walks toward the steaming spring, boots crunching on mineral crust. Brian stays in the driver's seat, watching Kevin's shrinking figure. The radio is off. The silence feels wrong.
Stop him. But he'd just wave it off. It was his call.
Kevin reaches the edge. He dips the pole into the boiling blue. For a long breath, the world holds still. The fog on his goggles was thick. Kevin pulled them off, breaking Rule 1 without hesitation. He peered down. Through the steam, the cobalt center glowed like a living eye, impossible to look away from. And then Kevin froze. His hand on the pole began to shake, small tremors that grew violent. Brian sat up in the truck. He'd seen Kevin pause for readings before. but never like this. After an eternity, Kevin turned. He walked back to the truck with stiff, mechanical steps, the pole dragging behind him.
Kevin, what happened?
Kevin climbed into the passenger seat, still in his hazmat suit, still gripping the pole. He didn't blink.
Talk to me. What did you see? He saw something down there. Something that hollowed him out completely.
Brian started the truck. The springs steamed in the rearview mirror as they drove away. Kevin never looked back. The engine hummed. Kevin stared out the side window, his eyes never focusing. Brian tried the radio, then turned it off. When they parked at the station, Kevin was out before the engine died. He walked inside like a man already gone. At the duty desk, the ranger asked if he was injured. Kevin's voice was flat as the desk itself.
I need the resignation paperwork.
Brian followed him into the office. Kevin had already snatched the form from a stack on the counter.
Kevin, don't. Whatever you think you saw, we can talk about it.
Kevin's pen scratched across the paper. He didn't look up. The signature came out jagged, pressed hard. He dropped the paper on the desk, then looked at Brian with eyes that seemed to stare through the wall.
Drive me to Bozeman.
Brian drove. Kevin said nothing for the entire 2-hour trip, his hands folded in his lap like a corpse's. The Bozeman terminal glowed through the winter air. Brian pulled up to the curb and killed the engine. Kevin was out before the seatbelt clicked free, a duffel bag over his shoulder, wearing civilian clothes that hung like a borrowed skin.
Kevin, you owe me an explanation.
Kevin stopped, but didn't turn. His shoulders rose and fell with a breath that seemed to cost him everything.
Don't ever look into the blue. Not even with the goggles. Promise me.
What's down there?
Kevin shook his head just once. Then he walked into the terminal and didn't look back.
He's not just scared. He's running from something that saw him back.
Brian sat in the silent truck, the heater breathing against the windshield. The airport doors stayed closed. He replayed the violet sky, the fogged goggles, the way Kevin's hand shook. Whatever lived in the cobalt depths had taken a piece of him. Weeks passed. Brian returned to the springs, but the rules sat heavier than ever. Each pool felt like a held breath. The crew stopped mentioning Kevin. No one asked what he saw. The silence was louder than a siren.
Rule 1. Never look. He whispered it to himself like a prayer.
At night, the Cobalt Center came for him. Dreams of sinking into boiling silence woke him with a scream. He never saw what lurked beneath, but he felt it watching, a presence that recognized him. Word filtered back. Kevin had gone to Vermont, deep in the Green Mountains, 3 hours from the nearest hot spring. He found Kevin's number in his phone, untouched since the airport. He didn't call. He booked a plane ticket. He requested leave. The Vermont winter would answer what Yellowstone had refused to explain. Before he left, he drove to Grand Prismatic one last time. The steam rose calm and indifferent.
I am going to Vermont. Whatever he saw, I need to know.
3 winters later, Brian drove into Vermont's Green Mountains. The snow piled higher with every mile, muffling the world into silence. The cabin sat alone in a clearing of bare birch. Kevin opened the door like a man expecting bad news. He had aged a decade, eyes sunk deep, hands never still. He flinched at the sight of Brian, then opened the door wider.
You shouldn't have come, Brian. Nothing good will come of this.
3 years, Kevin. I've been drowning in questions. I am not leaving without the truth.
Kevin stepped aside. The cabin was spare, a chair, a wooden table, a bottle of whiskey already waiting beside a cold fireplace. Brian added his own bottle to the table. Kevin poured 2 glasses without asking, his hands unsteady.
You really want to know what's in the blue?
That's why I am here. Tell me what you saw.
Kevin sat back, eyes on the flames, and the silence grew heavy with the weight of what he was about to say.
I looked down. Past the boiling blue, there was something staring back. A face.
The face in the spring was his own. Older by decades, drowned, yet calm. A slight smile.
It mouthed words. I don't know how, but I read its lips like it was right beside me. Don't look in again until you are ready to take your turn. It meant I am on the roster. The spring is a rotation. A face is always under there. A former park employee, waiting to be replaced.
The person whose face appears, they're the next one scheduled to drown in that boiling blue.
He's not just afraid. He's already dead, and he knows it.
I moved to Vermont to be as far from standing water as I could get, but I still see my face in mirrors.
The whiskey bottle was half empty. Kevin's glass sat untouched, his hands clenched on the table. Brian finally understood. Rule 1 wasn't about safety. It was about not seeing the face that was already waiting for you. Kevin gestured toward the only bathroom. The drain was propped open with a stone. Water was never allowed to settle.
No baths, no puddles. I flinch at my own reflection in a glass of water. The spring isn't done with me.
Whose face is in the spring now? If yours is waiting, someone must be down there.
Could be anyone. A former tech who died naturally, or a missing worker never found. The face changes when someone new takes their place.
Brian's mind spun. Not just one. A chain of the dead, passing the curse like a dark baton.
Is looking the only trigger? If you never break Rule 1, can you escape it?
Looking is the invitation. If you never look, you die old. But the moment you see the face, you are on the roster.
I could look. I could see whose turn it is, but that would make it mine.
The fire had burned to embers. Kevin stared into the glow as if the spring itself shimmered there. Brian had come for answers. What he got was a door he could never fully close again. Brian barely slept. The cabin's silence pressed against him. Every splintered beam seemed to whisper the same warning. At first light, he was gone. Kevin didn't appear at the door. Only tire tracks marked the snow. Vermont's mountains gave way to interstate. Brian's mind circled the same question. What if the face isn't a stranger?
Looking binds you, but what if you see someone you love? What then?
His father's face surfaced. The same calm smile from the photo on his nightstand. Dead in 2018. Never visited Yellowstone. But the spring's logic wasn't human. It chose according to rules older than the park itself. Employee housing was dark when he parked. The steam from the distant basins glowed faintly on the horizon.
10 years I've kept the rules. Now I am the only one who knows what they really mean. Don't look. Kevin's voice echoed. But the face down there could be anyone, even Dad.
The engine cooled. Brian didn't move. The springs were still out there, and they'd wait as long as it took. Brian resumed his rounds, but his eyes never settled on a pool. Every steaming surface felt like a watching pupil. At Norris, the crust crackled under his boot. A vent burst inches from his heel, a near miss that left him breathless.
Missed a vent by inches. The ground is testing me.
That night, sleep came cold. He dreamed of floating above the cobalt center, the water holding its breath. Beneath the surface, a face coalesced. His father, looking up with the gentle smile he wore in every memory. His father's lips moved. Brian heard the words not with ears, but like a thought planted directly into his skull. "Come closer, son." Brian tried to pull back, but the dream held him. His father's expression never changed, and that love was the most terrifying part. He woke gasping, the name of his father on his tongue. The room was freezing, his sheets soaked.
It's not just a dream. The spring is reaching out. It wants me to look.
He sat on the edge of the bed until dawn, staring at the photo of his father. The silence was absolute, but beneath it, something called. The next morning, Brian walked into dispatch and requested the grand prismatic sampling shift. The duty officer raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He drove onto the access road alone. The park was silent, save for the crunch of gravel and the distant hiss of steam.
Kevin's voice. Don't look. Dad's voice. Come closer. Both are true.
At the spring's edge, he killed the engine. Grand prismatic steamed in the dawn. The concentric rings muted but alive. He stepped out and walked toward the cobalt center. His polarized goggles hung around his neck. The pole was cold in his glove. At the very lip of the spring, he stopped. The water boiled a few feet below. The heat shimmered the air. He lifted the goggles to his eyes. The world turned a sickly green. The steam seemed to thicken, as if recognizing him. He peered down. The roiling surface looked solid as melted sapphire. For a breath, there was nothing but blue. Then the steam cleared. A sudden pocket of clarity opened in the center. What moved beneath was darker than water. Brian's grip tightened. He did not look away. The shape beneath the spring arranged itself into a face. The face was not his. It was an older man, forehead lined, the jaw set in a way Brian knew better than his own reflection. Those eyes opened, calm, gray, the same color as Brian's own. He knew them from 1,000 Sunday dinners and one still hospital room.
Dad, that's not possible. He never saw Yellowstone. He died in his bed.
The face smiled, the gentle, private smile his father had reserved for photographs. Then its lips moved. It shaped a single syllable. Brian's name, drawn out into steam. He didn't hear it. He felt it travel through his bones. The vision broke. Brian's foot skidded on the crust. The steel pole clattered against the rim and rolled into the boiling blue. He landed hard on his back in the mineral crust. The sky spun above him, pale and indifferent. He crawled forward on his elbows, peered down once more. The face was gone, only the boiling blue, swallowing whatever had looked back. He pushed to his feet and stumbled toward the truck. He didn't look back. The spring hissed as if laughing. Brian's dropped poles sank beneath the cobalt surface. The steam closed over the spot where his father's face had smiled. Brian sat on the crust, legs splayed, the heat of the ground seeping through his suit. His breath came in ragged pulls. He looked again. The boiling blue was empty. Only his own reflection, distorted and small, stared back. No father. A memory surfaced, unbidden. His father laughing in a sunlit backyard, the year before the cancer took him.
He never came here. He died in a clean room. Not this boiling rot. How is his face down there? Kevin saw himself. I saw Dad. The spring doesn't just show you your death. It takes whoever you love. Did I do this? Did looking pull him into the rotation? Is he the next one scheduled to drown?
His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The glove felt like a stranger's skin. The guilt was a physical weight.
I broke the one rule that mattered. I looked, and now Dad is trapped down there, and it's my fault.
He pushed to his feet, unsteady. The spring churned behind him, indifferent. The world had tilted off its axis. He stared at the steaming pools, and for the first time, he understood. This place was a tomb, and he had just unlocked a new grave. He drove back past Norris Basin. The vents exhaled pale steam against a bruised sky, indifferent to his trembling hands. He parked at the ranger station as night fell. The windows glowed, but the warmth never reached him. By lamplight, he pulled a blank resignation form from the station printer and began to write. His signature tore across the paper, jagged and hard, just like Kevin's had 3 years before.
The suit stays here. The poles stay. I am done.
He hoisted his duffel bag and walked out of the equipment room without a backward glance. His truck passed under the Roosevelt Arch. The words carved in stone read, "For the benefit and enjoyment of the people," but he felt neither.
No more rules. No more faces. He's gone now, and I have to live with that.
Behind him, the springs continued to boil. Grand Prismatic churned in the distance, silent and patient. He did not look back. But the rotation didn't need him to. It would wait for the next one, who broke Rule 1. He pulled into a rest area and killed the engine. The phone glowed with a single contact. Mom.
Just hear her voice. Don't say anything about the spring.
Her voice came through warm. She asked about his health, the holidays, when he might visit.
Doing okay. Works the same. No, not this Christmas. Maybe in the spring.
She mentioned the old photograph on her mantel, the one of him and his father at the lake.
He's not in a frame, Mom. He's in a boiling blue pit. And it's my fault. Listen, Mom. I gotta go. I'll call soon. Love you.
The call ended. He set the phone down and stared at the empty highway through tear-blurred eyes.
She can't ever know. Her husband is trapped in a spring she's never seen, and she can't ever know.
He drove east, away from the parks, away from every standing pool. Some secrets, he understood, are not protection but punishment. Months later, Brian rented a small apartment far from Yellowstone. His job was routine, his drain always open, but sleep dragged him back to the Cobalt Center. The dreams grew sharper, more demanding. His father's face appeared again, but now decayed. The smile was a grimace, the eyes milky. The mouth moved and the words echoed through the water. "You shouldn't have looked, son. Now we both wait."
I am sorry. I can't undo it. I can't ever undo it.
The face dissolved into the bubbling blue, leaving behind a sound that could have been laughter or weeping. He woke screaming, his sheets soaked. The apartment was dark and empty. On the nightstand, his father's photograph smiled. The same smile as the one he'd seen.
He's still down there, waiting. And it's my fault.
He pressed his palms against his eyes. The rotation hadn't let go. It was only biding its time. A new maintenance hire in Yellowstone found a laminated rule card tucked above the sun visor. On the back, raw handwriting. "The face is not yours. It might be someone you love. Don't look." The new hire brought it to the supervisor. The older man took one look and nodded. No questions asked. He pulled a scheduling map, crossed a name off Grand Prismatic duty, and wrote in a new one. "Happens every few years," he said. "Not to the kid. Some rules write themselves in blood." The note was not filed. It was not discarded. It was tucked back above the visor for the next one. A fresh yellow suit was assigned. Grand Prismatic steamed on, indifferent. Beneath the boiling center, the shape of a body shifted with the currents. Waiting, the rule card had 6 rules on the front. On the back, an unofficial 7th, scratched in a dead man's hand. The rotation didn't hurry. It never needed to. Someone would look. Someone always does. Grand Prismatic still draws millions. They lean over the boardwalk, cameras flashing, never seeing past the colors. The maintenance crew still follows the 6 rules. They don't question them. They sample blind. Rule 1, never look into the Cobalt Center, the blue that glows like a pupil. Rule 2, never sample after dusk. Rule 3, stay off the boardwalk before Old Faithful blows. Rule 4, if steam rises when your gauges say it shouldn't, turn back. Rule 5, the maps at Norris lie. Rule 6, if you see a reflection and no one is there, leave. Don't return. Kevin's cabin sits dark in the Vermont woods. The drain is always open. He hasn't bathed in years. The note in the truck stays where Brian left it. The 7th rule, penciled in fear. The springs are a rotation. The faces change, but the blue never empties. If you ever work the springs, memorize the rules, especially Rule 1, and don't look in until you are ready to take your turn. The steam thickened at dusk. Grand Prismatic darkened, its rings fading to bruised violet and black. Beneath the surface, the shape cleared. A back, a head, shoulders, motionless but listening. It turned slowly, sensing the gaze. The water rippled without cause. An eye broke the surface. Calm, gray, unchanged from the day it first looked up. And if you ever look into the blue, don't expect to walk away unchanged. The face knows you now. It will wait, patient as the deep. The springs are a rotation. Faces change, but the cobalt never empties. The steam closed over the eye, and the world went silent. Only bubbling remained. Fade to black. The bubbling never stopped. It hummed like a held breath. The next face is down there, suspended in the blue, waiting for a glance.